Simone's hands were shaking. She stood in front of 300 people wearing a wedding dress she didn't choose, about to marry a man she'd never met. A man everyone said was paralyzed from the waist down. A man trapped in a wheelchair for the rest of his life. The Hart family, the people who'd raised her, had made it clear. You're going to take your sister's place. Marry him. We don't care if you want to or not. Simone had agreed. Not because she wanted to, but because marrying a stranger was her only way out of the hell she'd been living in for 18 years. But as she walked down that aisle, something felt wrong. The way Cameron Vance sat in that wheelchair, too still, too controlled. Like a king on a throne, not a broken man. The way his dark eyes tracked her every movement, sharp, calculating, dangerous. And when those eyes locked onto hers, Simone felt a chill run down her spine. This man was hiding something. She just didn't know what yet. But Simone was about to find out that marrying Cameron Vance wasn't just a business deal. It was a declaration of war. And she just walked straight into the most dangerous game of her life. Before we dive in, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because you do not want to miss what happens next now. Let me tell you how this all began. 3 months earlier, Simone Hart stood in the kitchen of the Hart family mansion in Chicago's Gold Coast, scrubbing dishes that weren't hers. The house was massive, 6 bedrooms, marble floors, a chandelier in every room, but Simone's bedroom, a converted storage room in the basement with a window so small you could barely call it a window. Simone, Monica Hart's voice cut through the house like a knife. Where's my coffee? Simone dried her hands and grabbed the coffee pot. She'd already made it 20 minutes ago. It was sitting right there on the counter, but Monica liked to yell. It made her feel important. Simone walked into the living room where Monica sat on the white leather couch, flipping through a fashion magazine. Monica was 56 but dressed like she was 25, tight dresses, too much makeup, hair dyed an unnatural shade of honey blonde. Took you long enough, Monica said, not looking up. Simone set the coffee down on the glass table. She didn't respond. She'd learned years ago that responding only made things worse. Fix your hair, Monica added, wrinkling her nose. You look like you just rolled out of a dumpster. Simone's hand went automatically to her hair. It was pulled back in a messy bun, hidden under an old scarf. She also wore thick black-rimmed glasses that were 2 prescriptions too strong, making her squint constantly. Her clothes were oversized, a baggy gray sweatshirt and loose jeans that hid her figure completely. She looked exactly how she wanted to look, invisible. Yes, ma'am, Simone said quietly. Monica finally looked up, her lip curling. You know, I don't understand why we still keep you around. You're not even really family. There it was, the reminder, the one they gave her every single day. Simone had been 8 years old when her parents died in a car crash on Lake Shore Drive. She remembered the social worker's sad eyes, the way she held Simone's hand too tight. She remembered Gerald Hart, Monica's husband, showing up at the foster care office, saying he'd known Simone's father, that it was the right thing to do to take her in. For the first year, Simone had actually believed they cared. Then she'd realized the truth. Gerald had owed Simone's father money. A lot of money. Taking in his daughter was cheaper than paying back the debt. And it came with good publicity. Local businessman opens heart and home to orphan girl. Simone had been their charity project, their live-in maid, their punching bag. Be in my room if you need me, Simone said, turning to leave. Actually, stay right there, Monica said, setting down her magazine. We need to talk. The front door opened, and Lena Hart walked in like she was stepping onto a red carpet. Lena was Monica and Gerald's biological daughter, tall, curvy, beautiful. She had her mother's honey blonde hair natural on her and her father's sharp cheekbones. She was wearing a pink designer dress that probably cost more than Simone had spent on clothes in 5 years. Mama, I just heard the news, Lena squealed, rushing to Monica. Is it true? Is Cameron Vance really paralyzed? Monica finished, her eyes gleaming. From the waist down, car accident last week. Horrible tragedy, Lena's face fell. But I'm supposed to marry him next month. Simone's eyebrows went up. She'd heard about the engagement the whole city had. Cameron Vance, 32-year-old CEO of Vance Industries, one of the richest men in Chicago, engaged to Lena Hart. It had been all over the news. That's what we need to discuss, Gerald Hart said, walking in from his office. Gerald was a big man, 6 feet tall, barrel-chested, with gray hair and a smile that never reached his eyes. Sit down, Lena. Lena sat, her hands twisting in her lap. Daddy, I can't marry him now. He's in a wheelchair. I know, baby girl, Gerald said soothingly. And we're not going to make you. Simone felt a cold feeling creep up her spine. She knew that tone. That was Gerald's "I've got a plan" tone. Gerald's eyes slid to Simone. But the wedding contract has already been signed. If we back out now, we lose the merger deal with Vance Industries. We lose everything. Monica smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. That's where Simone comes in. Simone's stomach dropped. "What? You're going to marry Cameron Vance," Gerald said simply. The room started spinning. Simone grabbed the back of a chair to steady herself. "Excuse me, you heard him," Lena said, her voice sugar-sweet. "You're going to take my place." I can't, that's insane," Simone sputtered. "I've never even met him." "Neither has Lena, really," Monica said, waving a hand. "They've only been on 3 dates, all arranged by the families. It's a business marriage, Simone, don't be dramatic." "I'm not being dramatic, I'm being logical," Simone's voice rose. "You can't just swap out brides like we're interchangeable parts." "Sure we can," Gerald said. "You're both heart daughters on paper. The contract just says a heart daughter. It doesn't specify which one." Simone looked at each of them, Gerald, Monica, Lena. They were serious, completely serious. "And if I say no?" Simone asked quietly. Gerald's smile disappeared. "Then you're out, no home, no money, no references. Good luck finding a job or a place to live with no college degree and no work history." It was a threat. A real one. Simone had been saving money for years, little bits here and there from the tiny allowance they gave her for grocery shopping. She had maybe $800 hidden in her room. That wouldn't even cover first month's rent in Chicago. "Lived under our roof for 18 years, Monica added. "Eaten our food. Worn clothes we bought you. Don't you think you owe us something?" Simone wanted to scream. She wanted to throw that coffee pot at Monica's head. But she didn't. Instead, she took a deep breath and asked, "What do I get out of this?" Gerald blinked. "What? If I'm going to marry a stranger, a paralyzed stranger, what do I get out of it?" Lena laughed. "Oh, listen to her, like she's in a position to negotiate." But Gerald held up a hand, studying Simone with new interest. "What do you want?" "After the wedding, I want my own place," Simone said. "An apartment paid for, and enough money to start over somewhere else. Away from this family," Gerald said immediately, too immediately. Which meant Cameron Vance was offering something huge in this deal, and they were desperate to make it happen. "And I want it in writing," Simone added. Gerald's jaw tightened, but he nodded. "Fine, my lawyer will draw up the papers." "Wait, Daddy, you're really going to give her?" Lena started. "Hush," Monica snapped. "It's worth it to get rid of her." Simone felt that familiar sting, the reminder that she was unwanted, but this time she welcomed it. It made what came next easier. "When's the wedding?" Simone asked. 2 weeks, Gerald said. "And Simone, make sure you keep looking like that." He gestured vaguely at her baggy clothes and thick glasses. "Cameron Vance is in a vulnerable position. We don't need him getting any ideas about trading up. Translation, stay ugly. Don't threaten Lena's position as the pretty daughter." Simone nodded. "Understood." As she turned to leave, Lena called out, "Oh, Simone, I heard Cameron Vance has a terrible temper, and now that he's stuck in a wheelchair, frustrated, angry." "Well, good luck with that." Lena's laughter followed Simone all the way down to the basement. That night, Simone sat on her narrow bed and pulled out her phone. She'd never been one for social media. The hearts discouraged it, said it was inappropriate for someone in her position. But she knew how to use Google. She typed, "Cameron Vance." The results flooded in. Cameron Vance, 32, CEO of Vance Industries. Net worth, $4.2 billion. Industry, technology, real estate, venture capital. There were pictures, lots of them, and Simone's breath caught. Cameron Vance wasn't just handsome. He was stunning. In every photo, he looked like he'd stepped out of a magazine. Tall, the article said 63. Broad-shouldered, tailored suits that fit him like a second skin. And those locks, medium length, always pulled back neatly, sometimes in a low bun, sometimes in a ponytail. In one picture, he was at a charity gala and a few locks had fallen forward across his forehead. He looked like art. His eyes were dark brown, intense, the kind of eyes that seemed to see right through whatever mask you were wearing. In most pictures, he wasn't smiling. He had this serious, almost stern expression. But in one photo, a candid shot at some tech conference, he was laughing at something, his head tilted back, and Simone's heart did a weird flip. This man was supposed to marry Lena. And now he was going to marry her. Simone scrolled to the recent articles. Tragedy strikes Vance heir. CEO paralyzed in accident. Cameron Vance's engagement in jeopardy after devastating crash. Vance Industries stock drops amid CEO's health crisis. There was a video. Simone hesitated, then clicked play. It was news footage from outside a hospital. A black SUV pulled up and the back door opened. Two men in suits helped someone into a wheelchair, Cameron Vance. Even in a wheelchair, even with his face tight with obvious pain, he was striking. His locks were pulled back in a neat bun. He was wearing a simple black t-shirt and dark jeans. He looked exhausted. A reporter shoved a microphone toward him. "Mr. Vance, will you be stepping down as CEO?" Cameron's eyes cut to the reporter, and even through a phone screen, Simone felt the ice in that look. "No," Cameron said. His voice was deep, measured. "I'll be back in the office Monday." The doctors said. I said no. Cameron nodded to one of the men who pushed the wheelchair toward the hospital entrance. The reporter tried to follow, but a security guard blocked the way. The video ended. Simone sat back, her mind racing. This man, this powerful, wealthy, intelligent man, was now in a wheelchair, vulnerable, and the hearts were throwing Simone at him like a sacrificial lamb, expecting him to just accept it. But something in Cameron's eyes in that video made Simone think he wasn't the accepting type. She had 2 weeks to prepare for whatever was coming. Simone thought she was walking into a simple business arrangement, marry the man, get her freedom and disappear. But she had no idea what Cameron Vance was really planning. And when these two finally meet face to face, let's just say sparks fly in ways nobody expected. You do not want to miss what happens next. Stay tuned. The 2 weeks passed in a blur. Gerald's lawyer did draw up the papers. A contract promising Simone a 2-bedroom apartment in a decent neighborhood and $50,000 cash after the wedding. It wasn't life-changing money, but it was enough to start over. Simone signed without hesitation. The Harts wanted her to meet Cameron before the wedding. To make sure he doesn't suspect anything, Monica had said, but Cameron refused all meetings. His assistant, a efficient-sounding woman named Rachel, had called Gerald directly. "Mr. Vance is focused on his recovery. He'll meet his bride at the altar." Gerald had been furious, but there was nothing he could do. Lena, meanwhile, was busy planning her own wedding to Brett Vance, Cameron's stepbrother. The Harts had pivoted quickly once they realized Brett was also heir to part of the Vance fortune. Not as much as Cameron, but still substantial. "It's actually perfect," Monica had gushed at dinner one night. "Both my daughters marrying into the Vance family will be connected to their empire from two sides." Simone had said nothing. She wasn't Monica's daughter. Not really. And after this wedding, she'd make sure Monica never called her that again. The morning of the wedding, Simone woke up at 5 a.m. in a hotel room. The Harts had booked a suite at the Peninsula for both brides to get ready. Lena's side of the suite looked like a bomb had gone off in a makeup store. Dresses everywhere, a team of stylists, champagne bottles. Simone's side had a simple white dress hanging on the door and a note. "Be ready by 2 p.m. She showered, dried her hair, and pulled it back into the same messy bun she always wore. She put on her thick glasses. The dress fit barely. It was a simple A-line style, long sleeves, high neck. Nothing fancy, but it was white and it was clean. At 1:30 p.m. there was a knock on her door. Simone opened it to find a woman standing there, mid-40s, black, wearing an elegant gray suit. She had kind eyes. "Simone Hart?" the woman asked. "Yes, I'm Rachel Chen, Mr. Vance's assistant. He sent me to help you get ready." Simone blinked. I am ready." Rachel looked at Simone's baggy dress, her messy hair, her thick glasses. Her expression didn't change, but Simone saw something flicker in her eyes, pity, understanding. "Mr. Vance thought you might want a stylist," Rachel said carefully. "He's arranged for—" "No, thank you," Simone said quickly. "I'm fine like this." Rachel studied her for a long moment, then she nodded. "Understood, the car will be here in 15 minutes. As Rachel turned to leave, Simone called out, "Wait, can I ask you something?" Rachel turned back. "Of course." "What's he like?" Cameron Vance. "Really like?" Rachel's face softened. "He's the smartest person I've ever worked for. He's fair. He's demanding. He doesn't tolerate lies or laziness." She paused. "And he's going through hell right now, but he won't let anyone see it." Simone nodded slowly. "Thank you, Miss Hart," Rachel said. "Whatever you've heard about Mr. Vance, don't believe all of it. He's a good man. He just doesn't let many people see that side of him." Then she was gone. The wedding was held at the Vance family estate in Lake Forest, a massive property on the shore of Lake Michigan. The mansion itself looked like something out of a movie. Stone walls, ivy, tall windows. Simone arrived in a black car, alone. The Harts were already inside. As she stepped out, she saw another car pulling up, a white Rolls-Royce. The door opened, and Lena stepped out in a dress that probably cost more than Simone's entire education. Lena was glowing, laughing, posing for the photographers who'd gathered outside. Brett Vance, Cameron's stepbrother, rushed over to take Lena's hand. Brett was handsome in a conventional way, blonde hair, blue eyes, tall. He looked like every other rich white guy Simone had ever seen. "Simone," Lena called out, her voice syrupy sweet. "Don't you look simple?" Photographers turned, saw Simone in her plain dress and messy hair, and immediately lost interest. Perfect. Simone walked into the mansion, her heart pounding. The interior was breathtaking, marble floors, crystal chandeliers, flowers everywhere. It was decorated for a double wedding, white and gold. A wedding planner rushed over. "You must be the other bride. Come, come, we're starting in 10 minutes. She ushered Simone down a hallway into a small room. "Wait here until you hear the music. Then walk straight down the aisle. Your groom will be waiting at the altar." Then she was gone. Simone stood alone in the room, her hands shaking. This was it. In a few minutes she'd be married to a man she'd never met. A man who was paralyzed. A man who, according to every article she'd read, was ruthless in business. What had she gotten herself into? The music started. A string quartet playing something classical. Simone took a deep breath, opened the door, and stepped into the hallway. The ballroom was massive. Easily 300 people filled the chairs. Chandeliers hung from the ceiling like diamonds. Flowers, white roses, orchids were everywhere. And at the front there were 2 altars set up side by side. At the left altar stood Brett Vance, grinning like he'd won the lottery. At the right altar, Simone's breath caught. Cameron Vance sat in a sleek black wheelchair facing forward. He was wearing a tailored black tuxedo that fit his broad shoulders perfectly. His locks were pulled back in a low bun, neat and elegant. Even sitting down, he had a presence that made everyone else in the room fade into the background. He wasn't looking at her. He was staring straight ahead, his face expressionless. Simone started walking. Every step felt like a mile. People were whispering. She could hear them. "Is that the Hart girl? The adopted one? She looks so plain. Cameron, first he's paralyzed and now this." Simone kept her eyes forward. She'd heard worse. She reached the altar, and Cameron turned his head to look at her. Those dark brown eyes met hers, and Simone felt like she'd been hit by lightning. He was even more stunning in person. His face was all sharp angles, high cheekbones, strong jaw, full lips set in a firm line. A few of his locks had escaped the bun and fallen forward across his forehead. He didn't brush them back. He just stared at her. Simone stared back. For a long moment, neither of them moved. Then Cameron's lips curved into the smallest smile, so small that if Simone hadn't been looking right at him, she would have missed it. "You must be Simone," he said. His voice was deep, smooth, like whiskey and honey. "And you must be Cameron," Simone replied, surprised her voice came out steady. "Correct." He extended his hand. Simone looked down at his hand. It was large, long fingers, surprisingly elegant. She placed her hand in his. His grip was warm, firm, controlled. "Shall we?" Cameron asked, nodding toward the minister. "Might as well," Simone said. "We're already here." That small smile flickered again. "Practical, I like that." Ceremony began. It was a blur. The minister talked about love and commitment and partnership. Simone barely heard any of it. She was too aware of Cameron beside her, the way he sat perfectly still, the way his eyes occasionally cut to her like he was studying her. On the other altar, Lena and Brett were giggling, whispering to each other, playing the part of the happy couple. Cameron and Simone stood in silence. "Do you, Cameron Vance, take Simone Hart to be your lawfully wedded wife?" "I do," Cameron said, no hesitation. "And do you, Simone Hart, take Cameron Vance to be your lawfully wedded husband?" Simone looked at Cameron. He was watching her, waiting. She thought about the basement room. The years of being called ugly, unwanted, a burden. The chance to finally be free. "I do," Simone said. "Then by the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride." Cameron's eyebrow raised slightly. "May I?" It took Simone a second to realize he was asking for permission. Sure." Cameron reached out, gently cupped the back of her neck with one hand and pulled her down slightly. The kiss was soft, brief. His lips were warm. When he pulled back, his eyes were still on hers, unreadable. "Hello, wife," he murmured. "Hello, husband," Simone whispered back. Applause erupted around them. The ceremony was over. Simone and Cameron were married. The reception was in the same ballroom. Tables everywhere, a band playing, champagne flowing. Simone sat at the main table next to Cameron. His wheelchair was positioned at the head of the table, and Simone was in the chair to his right. People kept coming up to congratulate them. Business associates, family friends, people whose names Simone immediately forgot. Everyone was polite to Cameron. Sympathetic even. But the looks they gave Simone ranged from confused to pitying to outright disdainful. One woman, elderly, dripping in diamonds, actually said, "Well, Cameron, I suppose beggars can't be choosers, can they?" and walked away laughing. Simone's face burned. But Cameron's hand suddenly covered hers on the table. His grip was firm. "Ignore them," he said quietly, not looking at her. He was still smiling at the guests, playing the gracious groom. "I'm used to it," Simone said. "That doesn't make it acceptable." Before Simone could respond, a man approached the table. He was tall, broad-shouldered, black, probably in his mid-60s. He had gray hair cut short and sharp eyes that looked a lot like Cameron's. "Dad," Cameron said, his voice carefully neutral. "Son." The man, Bishop Vance, nodded. Then his eyes slid to Simone. "So this is your bride?" "Simone, this is my father, Bishop Vance," Cameron said. "Dad, this is my wife, Simone." Bishop studied her for a long moment. Simone felt like she was being scanned by an X-ray machine. "She's not what I expected," Bishop said finally. "She's exactly what I needed," Cameron replied coolly. Bishop's eyebrows went up. Then, surprisingly, he smiled. "Welcome to the family, Simone." "Thank you, sir," Simone said. Bishop walked away, and Simone let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. "That went better than I expected," Cameron murmured. "Does he usually not welcome people to the usually doesn't speak to me at all?" Cameron said. "We're not close." Before Simone could ask why, another voice interrupted. Well, the happy couple." A woman approached, white, early 50s, blonde hair in a tight bun, wearing a cream-colored dress that screamed money. She had cold blue eyes and a smile that didn't reach them. "Vanessa," Cameron said. His voice went flat. "How lovely to see you." "Oh, Cameron, don't be like that," Vanessa said, her voice sugary. "I'm your stepmother. I only want the best for you." "Of course you do," Cameron said dryly. Vanessa's eyes slid to Simone. "And you must be the substitute bride. How charming." Simone felt her jaw tighten, but she forced a smile. "And you must be the stepmother everyone warned me about." Vanessa's smile froze. Cameron let out a surprised laugh, a real laugh. It was a beautiful sound. "Like her already," he said. Vanessa's face went red. She opened her mouth to say something cutting, but a man appeared at her elbow, tall, blonde, mid-30s. "Brett Vance, Cameron's stepbrother." "Mom, come on," Brett said, tugging Vanessa's arm. "Lena's asking for you." Vanessa shot one more venomous look at Simone, then allowed herself to be led away. "Sorry about her," Cameron said. "Vanessa has all the warmth of a rattlesnake." "Noted," Simone said. "Any other family members I should watch out for?" "Just Brett. He's harmless but incompetent. He thinks he should be running Vance Industries instead of me." Cameron took a sip of water. "He's wrong." There was steel in those words. Simone was starting to realize that Cameron Vance, wheelchair or no wheelchair, was not a man to be underestimated. The reception continued. Dinner was served, some fancy chicken dish that Simone barely tasted. She was too aware of the whispers, the stares. And she was too aware of Cameron beside her, calm, controlled, watching everything with those sharp eyes. Finally, the speeches started. Brett stood up first, champagne glass in hand, grinning like an idiot. "To my beautiful bride, Lena," Brett said. "The luckiest day of my life was when Cameron's accident brought you to me." The room went silent. You could have heard a pin drop. Brett didn't seem to notice. "I mean, who needs to walk when you've got a woman like this, right?" Lena's face went red. She yanked Brett back down into his seat, whispering furiously. Cameron's jaw tightened, but he didn't react otherwise. Then Bishop Vance stood. "Keep this brief," Bishop said, his deep voice carrying across the room. "Cameron, you've faced a tremendous challenge, but if I know my son, he'll rise above it. He always does." Bishop raised his glass. "To Cameron and Simone, may your marriage be built on strength and honesty." "Strength and honesty," the room echoed. Cameron raised his glass to his father. Bishop nodded back. It was a small moment, but Simone got the sense it was significant. The band started playing again, a slow song. Brett immediately pulled Lena onto the dance floor, spinning her around dramatically. Cameron turned to Simone. "Would you like to dance?" Simone blinked. "How? We'll figure it out," Cameron said. He pushed his wheelchair back slightly, then held out his hand. Simone took it. Cameron pulled her closer, and Simone found herself standing in front of his wheelchair, his hands on her waist, her hands on his shoulders. They swayed slightly to the music. It wasn't really dancing, but it was something. "Doing well," Cameron said quietly. "I know this isn't easy." "You're doing pretty well yourself," Simone replied, considering I'm in a wheelchair and married to a woman I've known for 3 hours. "Yeah, that." Cameron's lips twitched. "I've been through worse. Worse than a forced marriage. Much worse." They swayed in silence for a moment, then Cameron said, "Can I ask you something?" "Sure." "Did you agree to this?" The hearts clearly don't care about you. You could have said no. Simone met his eyes. I could ask you the same thing. You could have called off the wedding. Why didn't ask first? Simone sighed. I agreed because I want out. The hearts promised me an apartment and money if I went through with this. It's my ticket to freedom. Cameron nodded slowly. Honest. I appreciate that. Your turn. Why did you go through with it? Because I needed a wife, Cameron said simply. And you seemed uncomplicated. Not here for my money, you're here for the heart's money. You're not here for my status, you're here to escape them. That makes you the most trustworthy person in this room. Simone didn't know whether to be offended or complimented. That's a depressing way to choose a wife. I'm a practical man. Clearly. Song ended. Cameron released her waist and Simone stepped back. We should probably leave soon, Cameron said. People will expect us to head to the wedding suite. Simone's eyes went wide. Oh, right, that. Cameron's expression didn't change, but she saw amusement in his eyes. Don't worry, I'm not expecting anything. We have separate rooms arranged. Relief flooded through her. Okay, good. Unless you're disappointed, Cameron asked, one eyebrow raised. Even a little bit, Simone said quickly. That almost smile again. Noted. So Simone thought she had this whole thing figured out, marry the guy, get her money, live separate lives. Simple, right? Wrong, because Cameron Vance is about to flip this entire arrangement upside down. And when Simone finds out what he's really been planning this whole time, her whole world is going to explode. You do not want to miss the next part. Keep watching. 20 minutes later, Simone and Cameron were in a black SUV heading to the Vance penthouse in downtown Chicago. The driver was a silent man in a black suit. Cameron sat in his wheelchair, which had been secured in the vehicle. Simone sat in the seat across from him. So, Simone said, breaking the silence. What happens now? Now we go home, Cameron said. You'll have your own room, your own space. We'll appear together in public when necessary. Otherwise, we live our own lives. That's it, that's it. It sounded too easy. Simone didn't trust easy. And when do I get the apartment and the money, she asked. Whenever you want it, Cameron said. I'm not holding you hostage. Simone studied him. You're really okay with this, a wife who doesn't want to be here. Are you really okay with a husband who can't walk? Cameron countered. Touché. They rode in silence for a few minutes, then Cameron said, Can I ask you to do one thing? What? Take off the glasses. Simone's hand went automatically to her frames. Why? Because they're fake, Cameron said. I watched you at the reception. You were reading the place cards from across the table. Those glasses are just a prop. Simone's heart started racing. You're hiding, Cameron continued, his voice gentle. I don't know why, but you don't have to, not with me. Slowly, Simone reached up and took off the glasses. Cameron's eyes widened slightly. Without the thick frames, Simone's face was completely different. Her eyes were large, almond-shaped, a warm brown color. Her cheekbones were high and sharp. Her lips were full. Beautiful, Cameron said quietly. Simone looked away, uncomfortable. Don't. What? Tell the truth. Don't do that thing where you pretend to care, Simone said, her voice harder than she intended. We're strangers who got married for business reasons. Let's not pretend it's anything else. Cameron was quiet for a long moment, then he said, Fair enough. Rest of the ride was silent. The Vance penthouse was on the top floor of a building overlooking Lake Michigan. The elevator opened directly into the apartment. It was stunning, floor-to-ceiling windows, modern furniture, a kitchen that looked like it belonged in a magazine. Everything was in shades of black, white, and gray. Your room is down that hall, Cameron said, nodding to the left. Second door, your things have already been delivered. Things? What things? I didn't have. I had Rachel pick up some basics, Cameron said. Clothes, toiletries, whatever you might need. If there's anything missing, let her know. Simone didn't know what to say. Thank you. Cameron wheeled himself toward the other hallway. I'll be in my office if you need anything. Otherwise, good night, Simone. Good night, Cameron. He disappeared down the hall. Simone stood alone in the massive living room, her heart pounding. She walked to her room and opened the door. It was huge. King-sized bed, sitting area, attached bathroom. And on the bed were shopping bags, easily a dozen of them. Designer labels. Simone opened one and pulled out a soft cashmere sweater. Then another bag, jeans that actually looked like they'd fit. Another bag, a simple black dress. Everything was her size. Everything was tasteful, elegant, but not flashy. Cameron had done this, or his assistant had. Either way, someone had thought about what she might need. Simone sat on the bed, the sweater still in her hands, and for the first time in years, she cried. Not sad tears, not happy tears, just release. She was out, she was free. And her husband was a man in a wheelchair who called her beautiful and bought her clothes and asked for nothing in return. What the hell had she gotten herself into? The next morning, Simone woke up to sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows. For a moment, she didn't know where she was. Then she remembered married, penthouse. Cameron Vance. She sat up, her body aching. She'd slept in the cashmere sweater and her underwear, too exhausted to change properly. There was a knock on the door. Simone called out. "Breakfast is ready," came Cameron's voice. "If you're hungry." Simone climbed out of bed, pulled on the jeans from last night and opened the door. Cameron was in the hallway, still in his wheelchair. He changed into a simple black t-shirt and gray sweatpants. His locks were down, falling past his shoulders. It was the first time Simone had seen them loose. He looked softer, younger. "Morning," Cameron said. "Morning," Simone replied. She followed him to the kitchen where a spread of food was laid out on the counter: eggs, bacon, fruit, toast, coffee. "Did you make all this?" Simone asked, surprised. "I had it delivered," Cameron admitted. "I'm not much of a cook." They sat at the kitchen island, Cameron in his wheelchair, Simone on a stool. They ate in awkward silence. Finally, Cameron said, "We need to talk about how this is going to work." "Okay." "Public, we're a married couple," Cameron said. "We attend events together. We're polite, cordial. We present a united front. In private." "In private, we're business partners," Cameron said. "You have your life, I have mine, no expectations, no obligations beyond the public appearances." It was exactly what Simone wanted, so why did it feel disappointing? "Sounds good," Simone said. "Good." Cameron poured himself more coffee. "There's a company event Friday night. I'll need you to attend with me." "What kind of event?" "Shareholder dinner. Boring but necessary." Cameron glanced at her. "Rachel can help you find something to wear if—" "I can dress myself," Simone said. "I didn't mean—" "I know what you meant." Simone stood up, taking her plate to the sink. "I'll be ready Friday." She started to leave, but Cameron's voice stopped her. "Simone," she turned. Cameron was watching her with those intense dark eyes. "I meant what I said yesterday. You don't have to hide here, not your face, not yourself. This is your home now." Simone's throat tightened. "For how long?" "As long as you want it to be." She nodded, not trusting herself to speak, and went back to her room. The rest of the week passed in a strange rhythm. Cameron worked from home. He had a full office set up in the penthouse. Simone heard him on phone calls, his voice sharp and commanding. This was Cameron Vance, the CEO, and he was intense, but in the evenings he was quieter. They'd eat dinner together, delivered food always. They'd talk about nothing important. The weather, the news, carefully avoiding anything personal. It was weird, but not terrible. Friday came quickly. Simone spent the afternoon getting ready. She'd chosen a simple black dress from the clothes Rachel had purchased, knee-length, long sleeves, elegant but not flashy. She left her hair down for once, loose and natural. She put on light makeup. No glasses. When she walked into the living room at 6 p.m., Cameron was waiting by the door. He traded his wheelchair for a sleeker, more formal one. Black carbon fiber, almost invisible. He was wearing a tailored navy suit, his locks pulled back in a neat low bun. When he saw her, he went completely still. "Is this okay?" Simone asked, suddenly self-conscious. "You look incredible," Cameron said, his voice rough. "Oh, thanks. I mean it, Simone." His eyes traveled over her, not in a creepy way, but like he was seeing her for the first time. "You're stunning." Simone's face heated. "You don't have to." "I know I don't have to," Cameron interrupted. "I want to." "Is that allowed?" Their eyes met. Something shifted in the air between them. Something Simone couldn't name. "We should go," she said quietly. "Yeah," Cameron agreed. "We should." But neither of them moved. Finally, Cameron cleared his throat and wheeled toward the elevator. "Come on, let's go show Chicago what they're missing." Shareholder dinner was at the Four Seasons. The ballroom was filled with wealthy, powerful people, businessmen, investors, tech moguls, and every single one of them stared when Simone and Cameron entered. Cameron wheeled himself in smoothly, Simone walking beside him. She could feel the weight of hundreds of eyes. "Is that Cameron Vance?" He actually came. "Who's the woman with him?" "That's his wife. She doesn't look anything like the pictures from the wedding." Simone kept her head high, her face neutral. Cameron's hand suddenly reached out and caught hers. He squeezed gently. "Ignore them," he murmured. "You're doing great." They made their way to a table at the front. Bishop Vance was already there, along with Vanessa and Brett. Brett's eyes nearly bugged out of his head when he saw Simone. "Whoa," he said. "You clean up nice." Vanessa elbowed him hard. "Thank you," Simone said dryly. Bishop Vance stood and pulled out a chair for Simone. "You look lovely, my dear." "Thank you, Mr. Vance." "Me, Bishop," he said. "We're family now." Dinner began. It was as boring as Cameron had promised. Speech after speech about quarterly earnings, growth projections, market expansion. Simone zoned out, picking at her food. Then she felt it eyes on her. She looked up and saw a woman across the room staring at her with undisguised hatred. The woman was stunning, Asian, probably in her mid-30s, wearing a red designer dress that hugged every curve. Her hair was pulled back in a sleek bun. She looked like she belonged on a magazine cover. "Who's that?" Simone whispered to Cameron. Cameron followed her gaze and his jaw tightened. "Diana Young," he said quietly. "CEO of Young Enterprises. We used to do business together." "Used to? It's complicated." The way he said it made Simone think there was more to the story. Diana stood and started walking toward their table. "Here we go," Cameron muttered. Diana stopped in front of them, her smile sharp enough to cut glass. "Cameron," she purred. "It's been too long." "Diana," Cameron said coolly. "How's business?" "Thriving." Diana's eyes slid to Simone. "And who is this?" "My wife," Cameron said. "Simone, this is Diana Young." "Diana, this is Simone Vance." Diana's smile faltered for just a second. "Vance, how quaint." "I think so," Simone said pleasantly. Diana's eyes narrowed. "You know, Cameron, I have to say I'm surprised. I never thought you'd actually go through with marrying a heart." "Plans change," Cameron said clearly. Diana leaned in slightly. "But be careful, Cameron. The hearts are known for their opportunism. Wouldn't want your little wife to be using you." Simone felt her temper flare, but before she could respond, Cameron spoke. "Diana," he said, his voice ice cold. "I appreciate your concern, but my marriage is none of your business. Now if you'll excuse us." Diana's face went red. She opened her mouth, clearly about to say something cutting, and then Cameron stood up. He stood up out of the wheelchair. The entire ballroom went silent. Cameron rose to his full 6'3" height, his broad shoulders filling out the navy suit perfectly. He adjusted one of his locks that had fallen forward, then reached down and offered his hand to Simone. Simone's brain had stopped working. He could walk, he could stand. How long? When what everyone in the ballroom was frozen. Staring. Diana's mouth was hanging open. Brett had knocked over his wine glass. Vanessa looked like she might faint. Even Bishop looked shocked. Cameron's eyes were on Simone, patient, waiting. Slowly, Simone placed her hand in his. Cameron pulled her to her feet, then tucked her hand into the crook of his arm. "Shall we?" he asked, as if he hadn't just revealed the biggest secret in Chicago. Yes, we." Simone couldn't form sentences. Cameron looked at Diana. "As I was saying, my marriage is my business. Have a good evening." Then he walked out of the ballroom, Simone stumbling beside him. The room erupted in chaos behind them. "Wait, hold up." Cameron Vance was never paralyzed. He's been faking it this whole time, and Simone just found out in front of hundreds of people. Oh, you know she's about to have some words for him when they get home. But here's the real question. If Cameron was faking the whole wheelchair thing, what else has he been lying about? And why did he choose now to reveal the truth? If you're as shook as I am right now, drop a comment and tell me. Do you think Cameron is the hero or the villain in this story? Because honestly, I'm not even sure anymore. The elevator ride back to the penthouse was dead silent. Cameron stood beside someone, his hands in his pockets, looking completely relaxed. Like he hadn't just dropped the biggest bomb of the century on all of Chicago. Someone, on the other hand, was vibrating with rage. Her mind was racing. How long had he been able to walk? Since before the wedding? Since the accident? Had there even been an accident? The elevator doors opened directly into the penthouse. Cameron stepped out smoothly, walking toward the living room like this was the most normal thing in the world. Someone followed him, her heels clicking hard against the marble floor. Cameron went to the bar and poured himself a glass of whiskey. "Want one?" "Are you serious right now?" Someone exploded. Cameron turned, one eyebrow raised. "I'll take that as a no." "Lied to me," someone shouted. "You lied to everyone." "Yes," Cameron said calmly, taking a sip of his drink. "I did. That's it." "That's all you have to say." Cameron set down his glass and turned to face her fully. "What do you want me to say, someone? That I'm sorry, I'm not. Everything I did was strategic and necessary." "Strategic." Someone's voice went up an octave. "You made the entire city think you were paralyzed. You made me marry you thinking you couldn't walk. How is that strategic? That's just long." "It's both," Cameron said. He walked, and God, it was still so weird to see him walk over to the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Lake Michigan. "Sit down, let me explain." "Don't want to sit down. I want you to explain right now why you played me like thus." Cameron turned, and something in his expression made someone stop yelling. His eyes were serious, tired, like he'd been carrying something heavy for a long time. "Plaza," he said quietly. "Sit down, I'll tell you everything." Someone hesitated. Then she sat on the edge of the white leather couch, her arms crossed, her jaw tight. Kumkrun sat across from her in one of the armchairs. Without the wheelchair, he looked different, bigger, more intimidating, but also more human. His car accident was real, Kumkrun began. 3 months ago, someone tampered with my brakes while I was driving on Lake Shore Drive. I crashed into a barrier going 60 miles an hour. Someone's anger faltered slightly. Someone tampered with your brakes. Huh, that's what I needed to find out, Kumkrun said. I was in the hospital for 2 weeks. Broken ribs, concussion, internal bleeding, but I could walk. My legs were fine. Then why did you pretend? Because while I was in that hospital bed, barely conscious, I heard my stepmother Vanessa on the phone, Kumkrun said, his voice hard. She was talking to someone about finishing the job, about how Kumkrun's accident was just the beginning. Someone's eyes went wide. She tried to kill ya, or someone working with her, Kumkrun confirmed. I didn't know who I could trust, so I made a decision. I told the doctors to announce that I was paralyzed from the waist down. I made everyone believe it. Well, because if someone wanted me dead, making me look weak and vulnerable would make them comfortable, Kumkrun explained. They'd think I was no longer a threat. They'd get sloppy, make mistakes, and I could figure out who was trying to destroy me. Someone's mind was reeling. So the wheelchair was a trap, Kumkrun finished, and it worked. Over the past 3 months, I've watched people show their true colors. Vanessa and Brut started making moves to take over Vance Industries. They thought I was too damaged to fight back. They got bold. The wedding? Someone asked. Where do I fit into all this? Kumkrun leaned forward, his elbows on his knees. I needed a wife. The board of directors at Vance Industries has a rule. Only married executives can hold the CEO position long-term. It's an old-fashioned policy, but it's in the bylaws. If I wasn't married within 6 months of my father's retirement announcement, they could force me out. Your father is Rutterung. On 3 months, Kumkrun said. Which means Vanessa and Brut were counting on me being unmarried and disabled so they could push me out and install Brut as Sa'a. But Brut is incompetent, someone said. Exactly. Which means Vanessa would really be running the company through him. Kumkrun's jaw tightened. I've spent 15 years building Vance Industries. I'm not handing it over to someone who wants me dead. Someone sat back, processing everything. So you married me to secure your position. You chose me specifically because you weren't part of their world, Kumkrun said. Lena was supposed to be my bride, but she was too connected to Vanessa and Brut. They'd been having secret meetings for months. I knew she was in on whatever they were planning. How did you know? I have people who watch things for me, Kumkrun said simply. When Lena refused to marry me after the accident, I knew the hearts would send you instead. You were the perfect choice. Perfect how? Someone asked, not sure if she should be offended. Kumkrun's expression softened. You had no connections to my world, no loyalty to Vanessa or Brut. You were just trying to escape a bad situation that made you trustworthy. So I was just convenient first, Kumkrun admitted. But then I met you. Something in his tone made someone's heart skip. What does that mean? It means you're not what I expected, Kumkrun said. You're smart, you're observant, you see through people's nonsense. You're honest in a way that most people in my life aren't. Someone didn't know what to say to that. No, you're angry, Kumkrun continued. You have every right to be. I lied to you. I manipulated the situation, but I need you to understand I didn't do it to hurt you. I did it to survive. Someone looked at him, really looked at him, at the exhaustion in his eyes, the tension in his shoulders. This man had been fighting a war for 3 months, and he'd done it alone. What did you stand up tonight? At the dinner. Why reveal the truth, nah? Kumkrun's lips curved into a small smile. Because Diana Young was disrespecting my wife, and I couldn't let that slide, someone's breath caught. That's why you did it for Ma, Putali, Kumkrun said. But also because the trap has been set. I have enough evidence now to expose Vanessa and Brut. I don't need to pretend anymore. Evidence of what? Copyright espionage, embezzlement, attempted murder. Kumkrun stood and walked to a bookshelf. He pressed something and a hidden panel slid open, revealing a wall safe. He pulled out a thick folder and handed it to someone. This is everything. Financial records showing Vanessa and Brut stealing from the company. Emails between them and Diana Young planning to sabotage my projects. Phone records proving Vanessa hired someone to tamper with my car. Someone flipped through the folder. It was damning, absolutely damning. Been building a case this whole time, she said slowly. Yes. No, I take them down, Kumkrun said. But I need to ask you something first, someone. She looked up at him. Are you with me? Kumkrun asked. I know this isn't what you signed up for. You wanted a simple arrangement, marriage, money, freedom, but this is about to get complicated, messy, possibly dangerous. If you want out, I'll give you the apartment and money right now. No hard feelings, but if you stay. If I stay, someone prompted. If you stay, you're my partner in this, Kumkrun said. Not just my wife on paper, my actual partner. We take them down together. Someone looked down at the folder in her hands. She thought about the hearts, how they treated her like garbage for 18 years. How Lena had laughed at the thought of someone marrying a cripple. How they'd used her as a pawn. She thought about Vanessa's cold eyes and Brut's smug smile. She thought about Kumkrun standing up for her in that ballroom, defending her in front of everyone. She looked back up at Kumkrun. What do you need me to do? Kumkrun's eyes lit up. Are you sure? I've been underestimated my whole life, someone said, standing. People think I'm weak because I don't fight back, but I'm not weak. I'm strategic. And if you're going to war with people who think they're untouchable, you're going to need someone like me. A slow smile spread across Kumkrun's face, a real smile, not the careful one he showed the world. It transformed his entire face. "Okay then, partner," he said. "Let's burn their world down." It's about to go down. Someone just went from scared bride to full-on partner in Kumkrun's master plan. And let me tell you, these two together, absolutely lethal. But Vanessa and Brut aren't going down without a fight. And when they find out Kumkrun can walk, and that someone isn't the helpless little victim they thought she was, they're going to come at them with everything they've got. Stay tuned, because the next part is where the real battle begins. Don't click away. You don't want to miss what's next. The next morning, Simone woke up to the smell of coffee. She climbed out of bed, pulled on one of the cashmere sweaters Cameron had bought her, and padded into the kitchen. Cameron was standing, still so weird to see, at the counter, pouring coffee into 2 mugs. He was wearing gray sweatpants and a black t-shirt that showed off his broad shoulders and muscular arms. His locks were loose, falling past his shoulders. He looked good. Simone hated that she noticed. "Morning," Cameron said, sliding a mug toward her. "Morning," Simone replied, taking the coffee gratefully. "So what's the plan?" "Direct, I like it." Cameron leaned against the counter. "First, we need to deal with the fallout from last night. By now, everyone in Chicago knows I can walk. Vanessa and Brett are probably panicking." "Agreed, but they're also going to come at us hard. We need to be ready." Cameron pulled out his phone and set it on the counter. "I've called an emergency board meeting for Monday. That's 3 days from now. I'm going to present the evidence against Vanessa and Brett to the board and have them removed from the company." "Will the board believe you? The evidence speaks for itself," Cameron said. "But Vanessa is going to fight dirty. She's going to try to discredit me, make me look unstable, and she's going to come after you." "Me?" "Why me? Because you're my weakness now," Cameron said simply. "She'll try to make you look like a gold digger who's manipulating me. She'll dig up every piece of dirt she can find on you and the hearts." Simone's stomach dropped. There's something you should know." Cameron's expression sharpened. "What?" "Not actually a heart," Simone said quietly. "I mean, legally I am. They adopted me, but I don't know who my real parents were. The hearts never told me. All I know is that my parents died when I was 8 and Gerald Hart took me in." "You ever try to find out?" "The hearts wouldn't let me," Simone said. "They said it was in the past and I should be grateful for what I had." Cameron was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Do you want to know?" "Want to know what?" "Who your real parents were, who you really are." Cameron picked up his phone. "I have investigators on retainer, good ones. They can find out." Simone's heart started pounding. "You do that? You're my partner now," Cameron said. "Which means your past is something we should know about, especially if Vanessa is going to try to use it against you." Simone nodded slowly. "Okay, yes, find out." Cameron typed something into his phone. "Done, they'll start digging today." Before Simone could respond, Cameron's phone rang. He glanced at the screen and frowned. "It's my father. I need to take this." He answered, "Dad." Simone couldn't hear Bishop's side of the conversation, but she watched Cameron's face grow darker with every passing second. "When? I see. No, I'll handle it. Yes, she's here with me. I'll call you back." Cameron hung up and looked at Simone. "We have a problem." "What kind of problem?" "Vanessa called an emergency family meeting at the Vance estate. She's demanding I attend and explain myself." Cameron's jaw tightened. "It's a power play. She's trying to make me look defensive." "Don't go," Simone said. "If I don't go, she'll tell everyone I'm hiding," Cameron said. "She'll spin it like I'm ashamed or guilty. I have to go." "Then we'll go together," Simone said firmly. Cameron looked at her. "You don't have to. You said we're partners," Simone interrupted. Partners show up for each other. Besides, I'm not letting you walk into that snake pit alone. Cameron's expression softened. Thank you. Don't thank me yet, Simone said. I might make things worse. I doubt that. Hours later, Simone and Cameron pulled up to the Vance estate in Lake Forest. Simone had changed into a navy blue dress, elegant, professional, not too flashy. She'd left her hair down and wore minimal makeup. No glasses. Cameron was in a charcoal gray suit, his locks pulled back in a neat low bun. They looked like a power couple. And Simone was determined to act like one. Cameron didn't bother with the wheelchair this time. He walked straight up to the front door, Simone beside him. A butler opened the door. Mr. Vance, Mrs. Vance, they're waiting in the library. Of course they are, Cameron muttered. They walked through the mansion, past the ballroom where they'd gotten married just a week ago, and down a hallway to a large library. Inside, the entire Vance family was assembled. Bishop Vance stood by the fireplace, his arms crossed, his expression unreadable. Vanessa sat in a high-backed chair like it was a throne, wearing a cream-colored suit, her blonde hair pulled back severely. Brett stood beside her, looking nervous but trying to appear confident. And sitting in another chair, looking entirely too comfortable, was Diana Young. She was wearing a sleek black pantsuit, her dark hair in a perfect bun, a small smile on her lips. Simone's eyes narrowed. What is she doing here? Diana is a close family friend, Vanessa said smoothly. I thought her perspective would be valuable. Perspective on what? Cameron asked coldly. On your situation, Vanessa said, gesturing vaguely at Cameron. You lied to this entire family, Cameron. You made us believe you were paralyzed. You made us worry. And then you humiliated us by revealing the truth in front of half of Chicago. We deserve an explanation. You deserve nothing, Cameron said flatly. Vanessa's eyes flashed. How dare you? How dare I? Cameron's voice went ice cold. How dare you? You tried to have me killed, Vanessa. Did you think I wouldn't find out? The room went dead silent. Brett's face went white. Mom, what is he talking about? He's delusional, Vanessa said quickly. The accident must have affected his mind. My brakes were cut, Cameron said. I have the mechanic's report. I have the police investigation. And I have phone records showing you contacted a man named Marcus Webb 2 days before my accident. The same Marcus Webb who was arrested 3 years ago for tampering with vehicles. Want to explain that? Vanessa's face remained calm, but Simone saw her hands clench in her lap. That's circumstantial. You have no proof I ordered anything. Cameron pulled out his phone and pressed play on a recording. Vanessa's voice filled the room. I don't care how you do it. Just make sure it looks like an accident. Cameron is in the way and I need him gone. Brett stumbled backward. Mom, you tried to kill Cameron. Brett, don't listen to him. Vanessa started. That's your voice. Brett shouted. I know your voice. It's taken out of context. There's no context that makes attempted murder okay. Brett looked genuinely horrified. Cameron, I swear, I didn't know she would. I never wanted. Shut up, Brett, Vanessa snapped. No. Brett turned to Cameron, his voice shaking. I'm sorry. I knew Mom wanted to push you out of the company. I knew she was trying to make me CEO. But I swear I didn't know about the car. I wouldn't do that. Cameron studied his stepbrother. You really didn't know? I swear on my life, Brett said. I'm an idiot. I'm lazy, but I'm not a murderer. Vanessa stood abruptly. This is ridiculous. You have a recording that proves nothing. Anyone could have faked that. And even if it were real, there's no evidence that I actually went through with anything, except my crashed car, Cameron said. And the mechanic who can testify that the brake line was deliberately cut. And Marcus Webb, who's currently in police custody and very willing to talk in exchange for a reduced sentence. Vanessa's face finally showed cracks in her composure. You had him arrested. This morning, Cameron confirmed. And he's already given a full confession. Including the part where you paid him $50,000 to take care of me. Bishop Vance, who had been silent this whole time, finally spoke. His voice was like thunder. Vanessa, is this true? Vanessa's mouth opened and closed. Bishop, it's not, you don't understand. Did you try to kill my son? Bishop roared. The entire room flinched. Vanessa's face crumpled. He was going to ruin everything. You were retiring and Cameron was going to take over completely. Brett would have been pushed out. We would have been left with nothing. Brett is a Vance, Bishop shouted. He would have been provided for, he's family. But not your family, Vanessa spat. Not your real son. You've never treated Brett the way you treat Cameron, never trusted him, never believed in him. I did what I had to do to protect him, my child, by trying to murder mine. Bishop's voice dropped to something deadly quiet. Get out. Out of my house. Bishop's voice echoed through the entire mansion. You are no longer welcome here. You are no longer a Vance. And if I have anything to say about it, you'll be in prison by the end of the week. Vanessa looked around the room at Brett, who was staring at her like he didn't know her, at Bishop, whose face was carved from stone, at Cameron, who looked unmoved. Then her eyes landed on Simone. This is your fault, Vanessa hissed. If you hadn't married him, if I hadn't what? Simone asked calmly. Been convenient. Cameron married me because I'm not a snake like you. Vanessa's face twisted with rage. She lunged toward Simone. Cameron moved faster than Simone had ever seen anyone move. He stepped between them, his hand catching Vanessa's wrist midair. Touch my wife, Cameron said, his voice deadly soft, and I will end you. Vanessa jerked her hand back like she'd been burned. Security, Bishop called. 2 large men in suits appeared in the doorway. Escort Mrs. Vance off the property, Bishop ordered. She's not to return. Vanessa drew herself up, trying to maintain some dignity. You'll regret this, Bishop, all of you. Only thing I regret, Bishop said coldly, is marrying you. Security guards took Vanessa by the arms and led her out. Her screams echoed through the hallway. This isn't over, you hear me? This isn't over. Then she was gone. The library was silent. Brett sank into a chair, his head in his hands. I can't believe I can't. Diana Young, who had been silent through the entire confrontation, stood gracefully. Well, this has been illuminating, she smiled at Cameron. Congratulations on exposing the viper in your nest, Cameron, though I have to wonder. Her eyes slid to Simone. How long before you realize you've invited another one in? Excuse me, Simone said. Oh, come now, Diana said, her voice honey-sweet and poisonous. You're a heart. Your entire family is known for being opportunistic. How long before you start making your own plays for Cameron's fortune? Diana, Cameron warned, but Simone stepped forward. You're right. The hearts are opportunistic. They're greedy, manipulative, and cruel, which is exactly why I spent 18 years planning how to get away from them. I don't want Cameron's money. I don't want his status. I want a partnership with someone who sees me as more than just a pawn. Can you say the same? Diana's smile faltered. Because from where I'm standing, Simone continued, you're the one who's made multiple plays for Cameron. He told me he proposed a business marriage to you once. You said no. But now that he's married to me, now you're suddenly very interested. Sounds like you're the opportunist here. Diana's face flushed red. How dare? I dare because I'm not afraid of you, Simone said. You can try to come after me, try to dig up dirt, try to tear me down, but I've survived worse than you, Diana Young. I've survived people who were supposed to love me treating me like garbage. You're just another person who underestimates me, and that's your first mistake. Room was dead silent. Cameron was staring at Simone with something like awe in his eyes. Bishop was smiling, actually smiling. Diana looked like she'd been slapped. I think it's time for you to leave, Diana, Bishop said pleasantly. Don't you? Diana grabbed her purse and walked to the door, but before she left, she turned back to Cameron. This isn't over, Cameron. You and I both know that. Yes, it is, Cameron said. It's been over for years. You just didn't want to accept it. Diana's jaw tightened. Then she left. After she was gone, Bishop walked over to Simone and took her hands. My dear, he said warmly, I apologize for ever doubting you. You are exactly the kind of woman this family needs. Simone blinked, surprised. Thank you, sir. Bishop, he corrected. And I mean it, you have fire, intelligence, loyalty. Cameron is lucky to have you. Cameron moved to stand beside Simone. I know, Bishop looked between them. Good. Now let's talk about Monday's board meeting. We need to make sure Vanessa doesn't have any more tricks up her sleeve. Agreed, Cameron said. They spent the next hour strategizing, Bishop, Cameron, and Simone working together like a well-oiled machine. Even Brett, once he'd recovered from the shock, offered some surprisingly useful insights. I know where Mom keeps her files, Brett said quietly. The ones she didn't want anyone to see. If there's more evidence against her, it'll be there. You get them? Cameron asked. Brett nodded. I'll do it tonight. Are you helping us? Simone asked. She's your mother. Brett looked at her with sad eyes. She tried to kill my brother. I don't care if she's my mother. That's unforgivable. Okay, can we just talk about how Simone just ate Diana Young alive with that speech? That is what I'm talking about. But y'all know Vanessa and Diana aren't going to take this lying down. They're going to come back with everything they've got. And when they do, it's going to get messy. Plus, we still don't know who Simone's real parents are. What if that information changes everything? Stay tuned because the final act of this episode is about to blow your mind. Don't go anywhere. That night, Simone and Cameron returned to the penthouse exhausted. Simone collapsed on the couch, kicking off her heels. Is your life always this dramatic? Cameron sat beside her, not across from her, but actually beside her, and loosened his tie. Usually, yes. Is it too much? Honestly, it's kind of exciting, Simone admitted. I've spent so long being invisible, being part of something that actually matters feels good. Cameron turned to look at her. You were never invisible, Simone. People just weren't looking hard enough. Eyes met. The air between them shifted again, that same electricity from before, but stronger now. Cameron, Simone started. No, this is complicated, Cameron said quietly. I know we started this as a business arrangement, but Simone, you have to know by now that this is becoming something more, at least for me. Simone's heart was pounding. For me too. Cameron reached out and gently tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. Can I ask you something? Yes. Do you hide? Cameron's fingers trailed down to her jaw. You're beautiful, you're brilliant, but you spend so much energy making yourself smaller. Why? Simone's throat tightened. Because when people see me, the real me, they either want to use me or destroy me. It's easier to be invisible. You're not invisible to me, Cameron said. I see you, Simone, all of you, and I'm not going anywhere. Simone felt tears prick her eyes. Promise? I promise. He leaned in slowly, giving her time to pull away. She didn't. Their lips met in a kiss that was nothing like the quick peck at their wedding. This was slow, deep, real. Cameron's hand cupped her face, his thumb stroking her cheek. Simone's hands found his shoulders, feeling the solid strength there. When they finally pulled apart, they were both breathing hard. Simone whispered. Yeah, Cameron agreed. Wow, sat there for a moment, foreheads touching. Then Cameron's phone rang. He groaned. I'm going to throw that thing in the lake. You should probably answer it, Simone said reluctantly. Cameron sighed and checked the screen. His expression changed immediately. It's my investigator about your parents. Simone's entire body went tense. Already, they work fast, Cameron answered. What did you find? Are you sure? Send me everything. He hung up and looked at Simone, his expression serious. Simone asked, her voice shaking. What did they find? Simone, Cameron said carefully. Your real name isn't Simone Hart, it's Simone Quinn. Simone's blood went cold. Quinn, as in Quinn Global, the billion-dollar corporation. Yes, Cameron confirmed. Your father was Marcus Quinn, the former CEO of Quinn Global. Your mother was Diane Quinn. They died in a car accident 18 years ago when you were 8. But I have a family, living family. Cameron nodded slowly. You have a brother, Dominic Quinn. He's 35. He's been the CEO of Quinn Global since your parents died. And Simone, Cameron took her hand. He's been looking for you for 18 years. Simone couldn't breathe. What? After the accident, you disappeared. The Harts took you in, but they never filed the proper legal paperwork. They essentially kidnapped you. Dominic has had investigators searching for you ever since. Simone's mind was spinning. She had a brother. It was a Quinn. There's more, Cameron said gently. Dominic Quinn owns 4.5% of Vance Industries shares. Simone's eyes went wide. The shares Vanessa wanted. Yes, those shares were originally your mother's. When she died, they went to Dominic. He's been holding on to them, waiting for the right time to use them. Them for what? To find you, Cameron said. He's been tracking people connected to those shares, hoping it would lead him to you. That's how my investigator found him so quickly. Dominic has alerts set up for anyone researching the Quinn family. As if on cue, Cameron's phone buzzed. A text message. Cameron showed it to Simone. Dominic Quinn, I know you found her. I'm in Chicago. I want to meet my sister tomorrow. Navy Pier. Noon. Come alone, Simone. Please. Simone stared at the message, tears streaming down her face. Have a brother, she whispered. Cameron pulled her into his arms, holding her tight. You have a brother and you have me. You're not alone anymore, Simone. You never will be again. Simone buried her face in his chest and cried. Not sad tears, but tears of relief, of hope, of finally belonging somewhere. The next day, Simone stood at Navy Pier at exactly noon. Cameron had wanted to come with her, but Simone had insisted on going alone. This was something she needed to do herself. The pier was crowded, tourists, families, couples. Simone stood by the railing, looking out at Lake Michigan, her heart pounding. Simone, she turned. A man stood behind her. Tall, maybe 62, broad-shouldered, with dark skin, a neatly trimmed beard, and kind brown eyes. He was wearing a simple black suit, no tie. He looked professional, powerful, but his eyes were filled with tears. Dominic, Simone whispered. Oh my God, Dominic breathed. It's really you. You look just like Mom. They stood there for a moment, just staring at each other. Then Dominic opened his arms. Can I? Simone nodded, and Dominic pulled her into a hug. He held her tight, so tight like he was afraid she might disappear. Been looking for you for 18 years, Dominic said, his voice breaking. 18 years, Simone. I never stopped. I never gave up. I didn't know, Simone said, crying into his shoulder. I didn't know I had a brother. The Harts never told me anything. Harts are going to pay for what they did, Dominic said, pulling back to look at her. Kidnapping, fraud, identity theft. I've already had my lawyers file charges. Good, Simone said fiercely. Dominic smiled, a smile that looked so much like Simone's it was startling. There's the Quinn fire. I knew you'd have it. They walked along the pier talking. Dominic told her about their parents, how Marcus Quinn had built Quinn Global from nothing, how Diane Quinn had been an artist and philanthropist, how they died on their way home from a charity gala. I was 17 when they died, Dominic said. I became your legal guardian, but then you vanished. Social workers said you'd been placed with a family friend, but when I went to check, you were gone. The Harts had taken you and covered their tracks, Simone asked. Why would they do that? Because Dad owed Gerald Hart money, Dominic said. A lot of money. By taking you, the Harts thought they could leverage that debt. They were planning to blackmail me when I took over Quinn Global, but I found a loophole in Dad's contract and dissolved the debt before they could act. So they just kept you, used you. Simone felt rage building in her chest. They treated me like a servant. I know, Dominic said softly, and I'm so sorry I couldn't find you sooner, but you're here now. And Simone, you're not just my sister, you're an heir to Quinn Global. You own 30% of the company. Simone stopped walking. I own what? Mom and Dad left their shares to both of us, Dominic explained. I've been managing your portion in a trust, waiting for the day I found you. Now that I have, he smiled. You're one of the richest women in America, little sister. Simone's legs felt weak. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything, Dominic said. Just let me be your brother. Let me make up for lost time. Simone nodded, overwhelmed. They talked for another hour. Dominic told her about their family estate, about the foundation their mother had started, about the life Simone should have had. Finally, Dominic said, I know you're married to Cameron Vance. Make it my business to know everything about everyone in Chicago's business world, Dominic said. Cameron is a good man, tough but fair. He'll take care of you. Has been, Simone said softly. Good. Dominic's expression turned serious. But Simone, there's something you should know. Diana Young, the CEO of Young Enterprises, she's been trying to take down both the Vances and the Quinns for years. Why? Because we rejected her, Dominic said. 5 years ago, Diana approached me with a merger proposal. I said no. She approached Cameron with a marriage proposal. He said no. She's the kind of woman who doesn't handle rejection well. She's working with Vanessa, Simone said. Dominic's eyes darkened. I know, which is why I'm offering my help. I have the shares Vanessa wanted. I also have resources, connections, and a personal vendetta against Diana Young. If you and Cameron are going to war with them, I want in. Simone smiled. Welcome to the team, big brother. Hold up, Simone just went from orphan with nothing to billionaire heiress with a brother who's ready to go to war for her, and now she, Cameron, and Dominic are teaming up against Vanessa and Diana. This is about to be the ultimate showdown. But here's what I'm wondering. Now that Simone knows she's rich and powerful in her own right, does she still need Cameron? Or will this new information change everything between them? And what about the Harts? Because you know they're about to lose their minds when they find out who Simone really is. Drop a comment and tell me, are you Team Simone or Team Diana? Because honestly, I can't wait to see Diana get what's coming to her. Let's continue the story. Monday morning arrived like a storm. Simone woke up at 6 a.m. to find Cameron already awake, sitting at the kitchen counter with his laptop, wearing reading glasses she'd never seen before. His locks were pulled back in a neat bun and he was dressed in a sharp black suit. He looked up when she entered. Morning, coffee's ready. Simone poured herself a cup and sat beside him. Big day, the biggest, Cameron agreed. The board meeting is at 10 a.m. Dominic confirmed he's coming with the shares. Brett sent over Vanessa's files last night. There's enough evidence there to bury her for years. Diana, Cameron's jaw tightened. Diana will be at the meeting. She owns 3% of Vance Industries shares. Not enough to control anything, but enough to cause problems if she wants to. She wants to, Simone said. I know. Cameron closed his laptop and turned to face her. Simone, I need to ask you something before we go into this. You sure you want to be part of this? Cameron asked seriously. Once we walk into that boardroom together, you're not just my wife anymore. You're a target. Diana will come after you. The media will dissect your entire life. People will say terrible things. I need to know you're ready for that. Simone thought about the basement room she'd lived in for 18 years. The names she'd been called. The way the Harts had made her feel small and worthless. Then she thought about Dominic's arms around her at Navy Pier. About Bishop Vance calling her exactly what this family needs. About Cameron standing up for her in front of hundreds of people. She looked Cameron straight in the eye. I've been a target my whole life. The difference now is that I have people who actually have my back. So yes, Cameron, I'm ready. Cameron smiled, that real smile that transformed his whole face. Okay then, let's go win this. Vance Industries' headquarters was a gleaming tower of glass and steel in downtown Chicago, right on the river. Simone had seen it before from a distance, but she'd never actually been inside. Cameron's driver pulled up to the private entrance. Simone stepped out, wearing a burgundy power suit that Cameron's assistant Rachel had picked out for her. Her hair was pulled back in a sleek bun. No glasses. She looked like she belonged in a boardroom. Cameron stepped out beside her, tall and commanding in his black suit. Together they walked through the lobby. People stared. Is that Cameron Vance? He's walking. Who's that with him? That's his wife. She doesn't look anything like the wedding photos. Cameron's hand found Simone's, threading their fingers together. Ignore them, he murmured. They took a private elevator to the top floor, the executive level. When the doors opened, Rachel was waiting. Mr. Vance, Mrs. Vance, Rachel said, nodding professionally. But Simone saw warmth in her eyes. The board is assembling in conference room A. Mr. Dominic Quinn arrived 10 minutes ago. He's waiting in your office. Perfect, Cameron said. Give us 5 minutes, then we'll head in. Rachel nodded and disappeared. Cameron led Simone down a hallway to a corner office with his name on the door. Inside, Dominic was standing by the window looking out at the Chicago skyline. He turned when they entered and his face broke into a smile. Little sister. Simone crossed the room and hugged him. Thanks for coming. Wouldn't miss it, Dominic said. He turned to Cameron and extended his hand. Cameron Vance, good to finally meet you properly. Cameron shook his hand firmly. Dominic Quinn, I appreciate the backup. Family helps family, Dominic said simply. He pulled out a folder from his briefcase. Here are the share certificates for 5% of Vance Industries signed over to Simone as of this morning. Simone's eyes went wide. You're giving them to me. They were always meant for you, Dominic said. Mom bought them as an investment for your future. Now that I've found you, they're yours. Do with them what you want. Simone looked at Cameron. This gives you controlling interest, doesn't it? It does, Cameron confirmed. With your 4.5%, my 38%, and my father's 15%, we have 57.5%. That's more than enough to override any vote the board tries to make. Then they're yours, Simone said, handing the folder to Cameron. Use them to bury Vanessa and Diana. Cameron took the folder, but his eyes stayed on Simone. You're sure? I'm sure. Dominic checked his watch. It's time. Conference room A was massive, a long mahogany table surrounded by leather chairs, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Chicago River. The board of directors was already seated, 12 people, mostly men in expensive suits, a few women in sharp business attire. They all looked up when Cameron entered. Bishop Vance sat at the head of the table, his expression neutral. Deanna Young sat 3 seats down, wearing a blood-red dress, her dark hair in a perfect chignon. She smiled when she saw Cameron, a smile that didn't reach her eyes, and beside Diana sat Vanessa Vance. Simone stopped in her tracks. What is she doing here? I invited her, Diana said smoothly. Vanessa still owns shares in Vance Industries through her marriage to Bishop. She has a right to be here. Tried to murder Cameron, Simone said. Allegedly, Diana replied. No charges have been filed yet, which means legally she's innocent until proven guilty. Bishop's jaw tightened, but he didn't argue. He knew Diana was technically right. Cameron walked calmly to the other end of the table, Simone on one side of him, Dominic on the other. They sat. Let's begin, Bishop said. Cameron, you called this emergency meeting. The floor is yours. Cameron stood. He moved with easy confidence, his presence filling the entire room. 3 months ago, I was in a car accident, Cameron began. Many of you sent flowers, cards, well wishes. You believed I was paralyzed. You believed I was weak, vulnerable. Some of you, his eyes cut to Diana and Vanessa, saw an opportunity. Diana's smile didn't waver. But I wasn't paralyzed, Cameron continued. I was investigating who tried to kill me, and I found out. He nodded to Rachel, who was standing by the door. She dimmed the lights and turned on the projector. The screen behind Cameron lit up with a photo of Vanessa on the phone. This is Vanessa Vance, Cameron said, talking to Marcus Webb, a man with a criminal record for vehicle tampering. The call took place 2 days before my accident. The next slide showed phone records. These are the phone logs proving that call. Next slide. Bank records. This is a payment of $50,000 from Vanessa's private account to Marcus Webb. Next slide, a police report. This is Marcus Webb's signed confession stating that Vanessa Vance paid him to cut my brake lines. Room erupted in chaos. This is absurd, Vanessa shouted, standing up. Those records are fake. Cameron is fabricating evidence because he wants me out. Sit down, Vanessa, Bishop said coldly. I will not sit down. He's lying. The police have already verified everything, Cameron said calmly. Marcus Webb is in custody. The DA is building a case. This isn't fabrication, Vanessa. This is justice. Vanessa's face went red. You bastard, I gave you everything. I raised you like you were my own son. You tried to kill me. Cameron's voice thundered through the room. You wanted me dead so your incompetent son could take over MY Company. Brett deserves this company, Vanessa screamed. He's family, so am I, Cameron shot back. But you never saw it that way, did you? I was always just Bishop's son, the obstacle in your way. Bishop stood slowly. Vanessa, you're done. Security will escort you out. If you ever set foot in this building again, I'll have you arrested for trespassing. 2 security guards appeared at the door. Vanessa looked around desperately. Diana, help me. Diana stood gracefully. Actually, Vanessa, I think it's time we cut our losses. Vanessa's face went white. What? You failed, Diana said simply. You were supposed to remove Cameron quietly. Instead, you got caught. You're a liability now. Had a deal? Vanessa shrieked. We had an arrangement, Diana corrected, which you failed to uphold, so now I'm making a new arrangement. She turned to Cameron. I'll vote to remove Vanessa from the board. In exchange, I want a seat on the executive committee. No, Cameron said flatly. Diana's smile faltered. Excuse me, I said no. Cameron picked up a remote and clicked to the next slide. The screen showed emails between Diana and Vanessa. These are communications between you and Vanessa, planning to sabotage 3 of my major projects. You were working together to tank Vance Industries stock so you could buy it cheap and take over. Diana's face remained calm, but Simone saw her hands clench. Those emails are privileged business communications. They're evidence of corporate sabotage, Cameron interrupted, which is illegal. Next slide, more emails. These are messages between you and Brett Vance trying to convince him to vote against me in board meetings. Next slide, financial records. And this is a payment from Young Enterprises to a journalist paying him to write hit pieces about me after my accident. Board members were staring at Diana now, their expressions ranging from shock to disgusted. Diana's composure finally cracked. You have no idea what you're doing, Cameron. I have connections. I have power. If you come after me, you'll what? Simone stood up, her voice clear and strong. Destroy him. You've been trying to destroy him for years, Diana. It hasn't worked. Diana's eyes narrowed. Stay out of this, little girl. This is business. You wouldn't understand. Actually, I understand perfectly, Simone said. She pulled out a folder and slid it across the table to Cameron. These are the share certificates for 4.5% of Vance Industries. They belong to my mother, Diane Quinn. Now they belong to me, and I'm transferring them to my husband. Room went dead silent. Quinn, one of the board members said. As in Quinn Global. Yes, Dominic said, standing. Simone is my sister, the Simone Quinn who disappeared 18 years ago. And as of this morning, she's one of the largest individual shareholders of Quinn Global. He smiled at Diana, which means the Quinns and the Vances are now allied, permanently. Diana's face went from red to white. No. No, that's not. You can't. We can, Cameron said. And we did. With Simone's shares, I now control 42.5% of Vance Industries. Combined with my father's 15%, that's 57.5%. Majority control. Bishop stood, a smile on his face. I move to remove Diana Young from this board effective immediately. Seconded, said another board member. All in favor, Bishop called. Every hand in the room went up, except Diana's and Vanessa's. Motion carries, Bishop said. Diana Young, you're no longer welcome at Vance Industries. Security will see you out. Diana stood slowly, her eyes filled with rage. She looked at Cameron, then at Simone. Regret this, Diana said quietly. Both of you. Don't think so, Simone said. See, here's the thing about people like you, Diana. You're so used to being the smartest person in the room that you forget to watch for the ones you underestimated. You thought I was just some nobody Cameron married out of convenience. You didn't bother to find out who I really was. That was your mistake. Diana's jaw clenched. She grabbed her purse and walked to the door, Vanessa scrambling after her. This isn't over, Vanessa shouted as security led them both out. Yes, it is, Bishop said calmly. The door closed behind them. The room was silent for a long moment. Then one of the board members started clapping. Then another. Then another. Soon the entire room was applauding. Bishop walked over to Cameron and pulled him into a hug, the first real display of affection Simone had seen between them. Proud of you, son, Bishop said quietly. Thanks, Dad, Cameron replied. Bishop turned to Simone. And you, my dear, are a force. Welcome to the family, officially. Simone smiled. Thank you, Bishop. Okay, can we just talk about how Simone completely destroyed Diana with that speech? That's what I call a power move. But y'all, we're not done yet. Because while Simone and Cameron just won the battle at Vance Industries, there's still one family that needs to be dealt with, the Harts. And when they find out who Simone really is, oh, it's about to be glorious. Stay right here because the next part is going to be so satisfying. 2 days later, Simone stood outside the Hart family mansion for the first time since her wedding. She was wearing a white pantsuit, her hair down, and natural, minimal makeup. She looked confident, powerful, rich. Cameron stood beside her, his hand in hers. You ready for this? More than ready, Simone said. They walked up to the front door and rang the bell. The housekeeper, an older woman named Martha who'd always been kind to Simone, answered. Her eyes went wide. Oh my goodness, is that you? Hi, Martha, Simone said warmly. Are the Harts home? They are in the living room, Martha said. She looked nervous. Simone, I don't know if you should. They've been in a terrible mood since they found out I'm a Quinn. Simone finished. Martha nodded. Good, Simone said. This won't take long. She and Cameron walked into the house. It looked exactly the same, marble floors, expensive furniture, fresh flowers everywhere. But now, seeing it through different eyes, Simone realized it was all fake, trying too hard. The Harts had money, but they didn't have class. They entered the living room. Gerald Hart was sitting in his usual chair, a newspaper in his hands. Monica was on the couch, pretending to read a magazine. Lena was curled up in another chair, scrolling on her phone. They all looked up when Simone and Cameron entered. The newspaper fell from Gerald's hands. Monica's magazine slipped to the floor. Lena's mouth dropped open. Gerald said, his voice strangled. What are you doing here? I came to settle some accounts, Simone said calmly. She pulled out a folder and tossed it on the coffee table. What's this? Gerald asked. Legal documents, Simone said. The first set is kidnapping charges. Turns out taking an 8-year-old girl and never filing proper adoption paperwork is a crime. Who knew? Gerald's face went pale. Now wait just a minute. The second set, Simone continued, is fraud charges. You claimed me as a dependent on your taxes for 18 years, collecting benefits meant for foster parents, but never actually filed me as a legal foster child or adopted me. That's tax fraud. Monica stood up, her voice shrill. You can't do this. We raised you. We gave you a home. You gave me a basement, Simone corrected coldly. You gave me scraps from your table. You made me your servant. You called me ugly, worthless, a burden. For 18 years. Took you in when no one else wanted you, Gerald shouted. No, you stole me from my brother who was desperately searching for me. Simone's voice rose. You kept me hidden so you could use me as leverage against Dominic Quinn. But your plan failed, Gerald. My brother dissolved the debt before you could act, so you just kept me, used me, treated me like I was nothing. Lena finally found her voice. You're not actually a Quinn. This is just some scam. Cameron pulled out his phone and turned it toward them. On the screen was a news article from that morning. Missing Quinn heiress found alive. Simone Quinn, sister of Dominic Quinn, discovered after 18 years. Lena's face went white. It's all over the news, Cameron said. Simone's DNA test confirmed it. She's Dominic Quinn's sister, which makes her worth approximately $3 billion, and you people treated her like trash. Gerald sank back into his chair. Simone, please be reasonable. We can work something out. Oh, we're going to work something out, Simone said. Here's how this is going to go. You're going to sign those documents admitting to what you did. In exchange, Dominic has agreed not to pursue the maximum sentence. You'll do community service, pay a fine, and stay the hell away from me for the rest of your lives. If we refuse, Monica asked, her voice trembling. Dominic's voice came from the doorway. Then I'll bury you. Everyone turned. Dominic stood there in a sharp gray suit, his expression deadly serious. Already frozen your assets, Dominic continued, walking into the room. Every bank account, every investment, every property. With one phone call, I can make sure you lose everything. Or, he gestured to the documents, you can sign, accept your punishment, and walk away with enough to survive on. Your choice. Gerald looked at Monica. Monica looked at Lena. Lena looked at the floor. We'll sign, Gerald said quietly. Smart choice, Dominic said. Gerald picked up a pen with shaking hands and signed the documents. Monica signed next. Then Lena, when they were done, Simone picked up the papers. One more thing, Gerald asked bitterly. Simone walked over to Lena and looked her straight in the eye. You told me once that I'd never amount to anything, that I was too ugly, too stupid, too broken to ever be anything but a servant. Lena's eyes filled with tears. You were wrong, Simone said softly. I'm a Quinn. I'm a billionaire. I'm married to the man you wanted but threw away, and I'm happy. Can you say the same? Lena's face crumpled. She started crying. Simone fell. Nothing, no satisfaction, no anger, just closure. She turned to Cameron. I'm done here, let's go home. Cameron took her hand and they walked out of the Hart mansion for the last time. Behind them, Simone heard Monica's wail. What have we done? But Simone didn't look back. Outside, Dominic was waiting by his car. Okay. He asked Simone. Yeah, Simone said. I'm good, actually I'm great, Dominic smiled. Good, because I have something for you. He pulled out a set of keys and handed them to Simone. What's this? The family estate, Dominic said. Where we grew up. I've kept it exactly as it was, I thought. Maybe you'd want to see it, remember. Simone's eyes filled with tears. Really, really, Dominic said. It's yours as much as it's mine, Simone. Everything that belonged to Mom and Dad, it's ours now. Simone hugged her brother tight. Thank you, in a time, little sister. That evening, Simone and Cameron drove to the Quinn estate in Lake Forest, just a few miles from the Vance estate. The house was massive, a beautiful stone mansion with ivy-covered walls, surrounded by gardens and old oak trees. Dominic had given them the security code. Simone and Cameron walked inside. The interior was stunning but clearly hadn't been lived in for years. Furniture covered in white sheets. Family photos on the walls. Simone walked slowly through the house, touching things, remembering. This was the music room, she said softly, standing in a room with a grand piano. Mom used to play for me. She moved to another room. This was Dad's office. He'd let me sit on his lap while he worked. Finally, they climbed the stairs to a bedroom at the end of the hall. Simone opened the door. It was a child's room, pink walls, a small bed, stuffed animals on the shelves, frozen in time. This was my room, Simone whispered. Tears started falling. I remember now, I remember everything. Cameron wrapped his arms around her from behind, holding her while she cried. They loved me, Simone sobbed. My real parents, they loved me. I know, Cameron murmured. Hearts made me forget, Simone said. They made me feel like I was nothing, like I'd always been nothing, but I had a family, I was loved. You're still loved, Cameron said, turning her to face him. By Dominic, by my father, by me. Simone looked up at him, tears streaming down her face. By you? Yes, Cameron said firmly. I know this started as a business arrangement. I know we're supposed to be practical and strategic. But Simone, I love you. I love your strength. I love your intelligence. I love the way you stood up to Diana and put the Harts in their place. I love all of you. I love you too, Simone whispered. I think I started falling for you the moment you stood up for me in that ballroom. Cameron smiled and kissed her, soft and sweet and real. When they pulled apart, Simone said, So what now? Now, Cameron said, we live our lives together as partners, as husband and wife, for real this time. More pretending, no more pretending. Not crying, you're crying, but hold on because we still have one more scene. One more piece to wrap up this story, and it's going to leave you with the biggest smile on your face. Stay with me. We're almost at the end, 6 months later. Simone stood in front of the full-length mirror in the penthouse, adjusting her dress, a stunning emerald green gown that hugged her curves perfectly. Her hair was styled in soft curls, falling over one shoulder. She was wearing the diamond necklace Cameron had given her for their 6-month anniversary. She looked beautiful, and she felt beautiful. There was a knock on the bedroom door. Come in, Simone called. Cameron entered, wearing a sharp black tuxedo, his locks pulled back in an elegant low bun. He stopped when he saw her. He breathed. Simone smiled. Good wow, incredible wow, Cameron said. He crossed the room and pulled her into his arms. You're the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. Flatterer. Truth teller, Cameron corrected. He kissed her softly. You ready for tonight? Tonight was the annual Chicago Business Gala, the biggest social event of the year. Last year, Simone had been nobody. This year she was walking in as Simone Quinn Vance, billionaire heiress, wife of Cameron Vance and board member of both Quinn Global and Vance Industries. I'm ready, Simone said. They arrived at the gala in a sleek black car, walking the red carpet together. Cameras flashed. Reporters shouted questions. Quinn Vance, how does it feel to be reunited with your brother, Mr. Vance? What's next for Vance Industries? Simone. Any comment on the Hart family's criminal charges? Simone just smiled and kept walking, Cameron's hand warm in hers. Inside the ballroom, they were greeted by familiar faces, Bishop Vance looking proud. There's my favorite daughter-in-law, Dominic Quinn, grinning, little sister looking good, Rachel Chen, Cameron's assistant, now promoted to VP. Mrs. Vance, always a pleasure. Brett Vance was there, looking humbler than Simone had ever seen him. He distanced himself from Vanessa completely and was actually doing good work at a smaller division of Vance Industries. Simone, Brett said awkwardly. I just wanted to say, I'm sorry for everything. You didn't deserve how we treated you. Simone studied him. He looked genuine. Thank you, Brett, she said. I appreciate that. As they moved through the room, Simone saw people whispering, pointing. But this time it wasn't with pity or disdain, it was with respect. That's Simone Quinn Vance. Sing heiress and Cameron are power. You hear she personally negotiated the Quinn-Vance merger. Apparently she's brilliant. Simone smiled to herself, then she saw her across the room looking tired and diminished was Diana Young. Diana's company had taken a massive hit after being kicked out of Vance Industries. She'd lost clients, investors, credibility. She was still wealthy, but she was no longer untouchable. Their eyes met across the room. Diana's face hardened. She started to walk over. Want me to handle this? Cameron murmured. No, Simone said. I've got it. Diana stopped in front of them, her chin raised. Simone, Diana. I suppose congratulations are in order, Diana said stiffly. You won. This wasn't about winning, Simone said. It was about surviving, something you wouldn't understand. Diana's jaw clenched. You got lucky, Simone said. I got smart. There's a difference. Diana opened her mouth to respond, but someone called her name from across the room. She shot one last venomous look at Simone, then walked away. That felt good, Simone admitted. Cameron laughed. I bet. Rest of the evening was perfect. Simone and Cameron danced, talked with friends and colleagues, laughed. At one point, Dominic pulled Simone aside. Have something for you, he said, handing her a small box. Simone opened it. Inside was a delicate gold bracelet with a small charm, a letter S and a letter D intertwined. It was Mom's, Dominic said softly. She had it made when you were born, S for Simone, D for Dominic. She wanted you to always remember you had a big brother watching over you. Simone's eyes filled with tears. Dominic, I'm sorry I couldn't protect you then, Dominic said, his own voice thick with emotion. But I'm here now, and I'm never letting you go again. Simone hugged him tight. I love you, big brother. I love you too, little sister. Later that night, Simone and Cameron stood on the balcony of the penthouse, looking out at the Chicago skyline. The city lights sparkled below them. Lake Michigan stretched out dark and endless. What are you thinking about? Cameron asked, his arm around Simone's waist. How different my life is now, Simone said. 6 months ago, I was nobody. I had nothing. I was just surviving. Now I have everything, Simone said, turning to look at him. A family, a purpose. You. Cameron smiled. You know what I think? What? I think you always had everything inside you, Cameron said. You just needed the chance to show it. And Simone, you shined. You took on Vanessa, Diana, the Hearts, people who wanted to destroy you, and you won. Not because of money or power, but because of who you are. Simone felt tears prick her eyes again. Happy tears. I couldn't have done it without you, she said. Yes, you could have, Cameron said. But I'm glad you didn't have to. He pulled out a small box from his pocket. Simone's eyes went wide. Cameron, we're already married. I know, Cameron said, opening the box. Inside was a ring, a stunning diamond surrounded by smaller emeralds. But we got married for the wrong reasons. I want to do it again for the right reasons. Simone Quinn Vance, will you marry me again, for real this time? Simone laughed through her tears. Yes, 1,000 times yes. Cameron slipped the ring onto her finger next to the simple band from their first wedding. Then he kissed her, deep and sweet and full of promise. When they pulled apart, Simone said, You know what the best part of this whole crazy story is? What? The people who thought I was nothing, who treated me like I was worthless, they're the ones who ended up with nothing, Simone said. The Hearts lost everything. Vanessa is facing criminal charges. Diana's empire is crumbling. But me, I found my family. I found my power. I found love. Justice, Cameron said. No, Simone said, smiling. Karma, there's a difference. Cameron laughed and pulled her close, and as they stood there, wrapped in each other's arms, looking out at the city that had once seemed so cold and cruel, Simone realized something. She wasn't the ugly, unwanted girl anymore. She was Simone Quinn Vance. She was powerful. She was loved. She was exactly where she was meant to be. 1 year later, the Quinn Vance Foundation's ribbon-cutting ceremony was packed with people. Simone stood at the podium, Cameron beside her, Dominic on her other side. The foundation, funded by both the Quinn and Vance families, was dedicated to helping foster children and orphans find their families, get proper legal support, and receive education opportunities. It was Simone's passion project, her way of making sure no other child went through what she did. "Thank you all for being here," Simone said into the microphone. "This foundation represents everything I wish I'd had as a child. Support, resources, family." She looked at the crowd, at Bishop Vance, smiling proudly, at Rachel, who'd helped organize the entire event, at Brett, who donated generously to the cause, at former foster kids who were now on the foundation's board. "I was lost for 18 years, Simone continued. "I was told I was nothing. I was treated like I didn't matter. But I survived. And more than that, I thrived, not because I'm special, but because I refused to believe the lies people told me about who I was." She paused, emotion thick in her throat. "To every child out there who feels invisible, who feels unwanted, who feels broken, you're not. You're valuable, you're worthy, and your story isn't over yet. This foundation is here to help you write the next chapter, a better chapter." The crowd erupted in applause. Cameron squeezed her hand. Dominic put his arm around her shoulders, and Simone smiled, a real, genuine, happy smile. She'd come so far from that scared girl in the basement. She'd found her power, she'd found her family, she'd found herself. And that was the greatest victory of all. So that's the story of Simone Quinn Vance, the girl everyone called ugly, who turned out to be a queen, the girl who was treated like nothing, who became everything. What's the lesson here? Never let anyone tell you who you are. Never let people make you feel small. And never underestimate the quiet ones, because they're often the most dangerous when they finally decide to roar. Simone could have stayed bitter. She could have stayed broken. She could have stayed small, but she didn't. She fought back. She stood up. She claimed her power, and in the end, the people who hurt her got exactly what they deserved, while Simone got everything she ever needed. Not revenge. Not even justice. Just peace. If this story inspired you, hit that like button. If you know someone who needs to hear this message, share this video with them. And if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? We've got more stories like this coming your way. Drop a comment and tell me, what was your favorite moment in this story? Was it when Cameron stood up at the wedding? When Simone confronted the Hearts? When she destroyed Diana? Let me know. This is your reminder that your worth isn't determined by how people treat you. It's determined by how you treat yourself. Stand tall. Stand proud. And never ever let them see you break. Until next time, remember, you're not just surviving, you're thriving, and your story, it's just getting started.